We're gonna get going, council. The correct agenda here is on the. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Clearview Township Council meeting for Monday, June the 26th, 2023. It is just after 5:30 p.m. And so we're going to commence with our regular council meeting. Counts just for the information of everyone. We did have a special council meeting earlier this afternoon, and council participated in a very good little workshop. So we are now back here in the chambers to continue our day of council meetings. All of council is present. We have many of our staff present. We also have some online. I'm not sure who, but I see Joe Paddock and Tammy Gill for sure. So they're online with us. That's great. All right, council, we're going to commence. At this time, I'd like to read the land acknowledgement to kick off our meeting. I would like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. We acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Tiahuanacocha, and the Wendat, and is the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples as part of an intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. At this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationships and ask the Creator for guidance in all that we do. Again, it's always my honor to say this voluntarily as the mayor of the Township of Clearview. Council, I'd like to begin our agenda. So we'll commence with, there was no closed session. So item number 2 is the approval of the agenda. So recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the agenda dated June 26, 2023 as presented. A mover, please. Mr. Deputy Mayor and Mr. Broderick. Thank you very much. Any questions on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. The next item is pecuniary interest, disclosure pecuniary. Anybody have any disclosures during this council meeting? No. If anything comes up during the meeting, please bring it forward. We'll deal with it right away. Council item number 4 is our public participation period. We do have some members in the audience, so perhaps we'll go to that. The text here says, be advised that comments and views expressed under public participation period are not the views of the Township of Clearview Council or the administration. Public participation is limited to 15 minutes. Each person is limited to 5 minutes. Questions or comments are to be directed to the mayor, and questions shall not refer to personnel matters, litigation or potential litigation, or planning matters that have already had a public meeting or any item considered confidential. And as always, please remember to share the time with your fellow citizens. Is there anyone who'd like to come forward for public participation period? Bill, come forward. Nice to see you. Yeah, you get to use the podium tonight. And I believe the microphone that'll be on your left is the one that works. Seems to me the other one isn't working. Is that right, Krista? I think that's how it works. The right one. Okay. The other way around. Sorry. That's it.
Lean to my right. Come on.
That's the one.
Are you receiving?
Thank you, sir.
This is a set of comments yet again on the ATV issue.
Okay.
Options 1 and 2 that the staff brought forward. When I looked at option 2, it's very clear that the potential changes that are reflected in that option, particularly and very heavily, are impacting the area in the township that's south of County Road 9. And hence the fact that Kara represents a fair number of folks in that area, and the surveys that we've taken were taken in that area. We hope you put in your deliberations particular weight on the feedback from that community. They are the most affected, and one would hope they should have a very large influence in your determination of which route we go. We've done 3 different surveys on this ATV issue, the interminable one. We sometimes refer to it in, Kara, I'm not sure what you call it, but in 2020, 22, and 23 were 3 separate surveys. And on each of those surveys, the 90% plus of the respondents wanted to lean towards the status quo, which is your option 1 on the materials that you were given. One thing that wasn't clear is why did over 90% in 3 surveys say what they did, the why? When I gave the presentation to the open meeting, I encouraged councilors to look at the comments that came in on our survey, and they were long and some of them a little tedious, so you may not have gotten to them. So I've taken the privilege, if I may, to talk to 8, actually read what people said, so you get a sense of the passion and where their vote really came from. The first one is a short one that says, ATVs are noisy, filthy, and unwanted. We do not need the extra traffic and the noise that these would produce. It's really important to keep these vehicles off the streets. I am especially concerned about noise pollution and safety. Property owners will not have or be able to enjoy the quiet of nature by relaxing on their properties. Think about the disruption of nature and the habits of animals. It is a beautiful tourist destination that applies to all of Clearview, of course, and should not have disruption of these noisy vehicles. I would be sadly disappointed to see the expanded permission for ATVs. The roads are already congested enough, especially when considering the importance of the ecosystem in this area. The trails and wetlands surrounding Creemore are precious and need our explicit protection. I am concerned about the disruption caused by noise and air pollution caused by these small engine devices. Property owners work hard to maintain and protect the populations of birds and other wildlife. To allow these vehicles would be detrimental to their efforts. Creemore is already beset by bikes and motorcycles. Is it ever? Adding ATVs would adversely affect the ambience of the town, particularly given the advent of the new Village on the Green and the desire for more visitors. That also applies, of course, to the whole township. Despite the fact that they are not allowed here, I have had ATVs roar past our home as well as up the river behind us, in the river, creating a real mess in the river and disturbing the peace and quiet of the neighborhood. We do not need more of this. And lastly, living on Jardine Crescent, I am aware of motorbikes and ATVs who regularly drive up and down the street, underage and no helmets, as well as chronic trespassing on the vacant land north of County Road 9, including the Christmas tree farm. Doubt anything will stop them. Parents often join the fun. Total disrespect of neighbors, nature, such a shame. That captures the direction and the depth of passion that people in the community have. The comments clearly really focus, as far as we're concerned, on a wholesale change in the daily environment in town, and particularly so on weekends, which is when we think most of the ATVs will appear in town. I think you'll recall in the comments from some of the ATV representatives at the open meeting that an issue they particularly emphasized was the fact that this would allow ATVers to come through Creemore or Dunedin and to get access to the broad cross-section of trails that are available to ATVs west, east, and south. The irony of course, is the only way out of Creemore, for example, to get up to those open ways to the east, south, and west, is to go up Caroline Street and up to the town line, which of course is a shared line between Mulmer and ourselves. And Mulmer, of course, has an explicit total prohibition of any ATVs on any roads in that township. So Creemore has the sad opportunity to enjoy the noise and commotion caused by ATVs. They hustle up Caroline and south and arrive at the town line. they can't go anywhere because they're prohibited from taking any road. Even if they travel County Road 9, County Road 9 does not access 124, nor does it access Airport Road. So in theory, if they're obeying the law, they turn back around and drive back through Creemore. So one of the major points of pushing for this into the south of County Road 9 area really has no application at all. The other thing is, let's say you do go with second option, and I hope you don't, but in case you do, you're coming across County Road 9 and you want to access Creemore. I think all of you know you have 3 streets to access. You've got Mary Street on the east, Mill Street in the middle, and Collingwood Street on the west. If things go right on Wednesday night and you approve the tribute development in Creemore, I want you to think of the next 5 years on Murray Street. If you think things were a mess when they put in the 15 homes that are currently on Murray Street, wait till we try to have 500 homes over 5 years. It's going to be bedlam. Do we need the added benefit of ATVs through that area? Let me go to the west, Collingwood Street. You turn the corner at Collingwood Street and the first building you pass on your right is the school. I think Creemore kids, as kids are everywhere, are bright and able, but they are full of energy. You're going to have ATVs go down that street. Yes, only during school days, but on weekends too, because the kids play over on the swings and so on. Next, you come to the rec center that you own. And as we all know, it's a very actively used piece of township property. You go another block and then you make the right and you're on to Caroline Street. And lastly, Mill Street. It's a busy street, as we all know, but it's reasonably wide. Excuse me. But I think we need to think about the weekends when I think Kara feels broadly, there's going to be the most actively used by ATVers. They've got the days off and they want to enjoy the outdoors. The issue here is many of you, I think probably all of you, have been in Creemore on a Saturday or a Sunday, especially on a Saturday. That's one beast of a street on the weekend, especially in the morning, but in the afternoons too. Being Creemore, we always like to make life more difficult. And we've decided we want to do the same thing on Sunday as part of the opening of the Village on the Green. So every Sunday in the morning, there's going to be a special exercise class for as many Creemorites and Clearviewites as we can get for the morning. And then in the afternoon, there's going to be a band performance every Sunday for the whole summer. And we're hoping that we have very large crowds. So it used to be a reasonably quiet day in Creemore, becomes another day, we hope, of bedlam, and we hope the retailers and the townspeople, in addition, will enjoy it. The point I'm trying to make is, even if you go yes, our town is going to experience more than just noise. It's going to be exposed to a flurry of vehicles, ATVs, trying to wend their way in to Caroline Street so they can get out of town. And if they force themselves into Mulmer, of course, breaking the law, but that's their choice, not ours. So what I'd really like to underscore is the fact that there's a reason why 90% plus of the members of CARA who voted in those 3 surveys said, let's go with option 1. The status quo works. We think you've made the right decision, or the staff has, in not looking for enforcement. I think there is good intentions by the ATV community. I think they're responsible for the most part, although there are some sinners, as there are in a lot of areas in life. So I don't think enforcement is something that you need to seriously consider, and the staff came to the same conclusion. So let me finish by saying Dunedin and Clearview and Creemore are important towns in your community, and we think they're an attraction for tourists, and we sure the devil hope they come not only just to those two towns, but to the rest of the township. But I'm not sure we make the appeal any greater if we allow ATVs in that area. So my request is, when it comes to the vote later tonight, think hard and please choose option 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. Thank you. And again, this is public participation period. Is there anybody else from the audience who wishes to come forward and participate? Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, please come forward.
So my first time being at a council meeting and my first time standing up to the mic.
Well,
So
welcome.
If I need.
How about your name? What's your
please-
name?
My name is Tracy Stevenson.
Hello, Tracy.
I live in Creemore. This whole issue of ATVs, lots of back and forth. Everyone has their side. I find it a little frustrating that we've gone through all this process once before, a decision's made, and I'm curious to know how many residents inquired about opening this up that actually are in Creemore and Dunedin area. Is it local residents that actually do intend to just, scurry around or run their errands or whatnot? Or is it the outsider? I don't want to say outsiders, that's the wrong word. People from other wards and such traveling to Creemore to go on the trails, because I did look up the trails map and it looks like all of the current trails are outside of the village. Like, I think the closest one to the east is on the other side of Airport Road in Avening. And then you're over farther west to, say, Glen Huron, but nothing right in that village area. But when you look at that new revised proposed map, everything, it highlights that a lot of the changes is right there, right in that smack dab in the Creemore village. And I'm just wondering if there are any creative ideas that have come up thinking outside of the box where we can meet in the middle, collaborate, and try and figure out a way where everyone sort of has their objective addressed, I guess. I'm all for the active living. We live in a beautiful place. We're in Clearview. We all love being here. It's just that not all of us have the same reason for loving living here. So, I don't own an ATV. I don't go ATVing. I respect that people like to do that. I find it ironic that, you read through the bylaws and whatnot, and they're referred to as off-road vehicles, off roads. So things have evolved, and we all know how, consumerism works, and everything sort of, there's a slant on things to sort of promote sales and whatnot. So all of these, I feel like they've come up with all these sort of terms, but initially they were off-road vehicles, and our roads weren't built for ATVs. I know that not everyone likes cyclists, and cyclists get to use the road, but can we not find some sort of collaborative way to sort of appease those non-vehicle drivers? Like, we have this new development on Mary Street coming in. Could there be some sort of opportunity? I understand that the wheels are already in motion, but is there some sort of opportunity to involve them in creating like a multi-use path, a multi-use trail? Like, I just feel like why does it have to be completely one way or the other? Can we not sort of think outside of the box and brainstorm? And there are small communities just like us who utilize experts who deal with these types of issues and sort of come up with possible solutions. And I just can't help but wonder, have we sort of looked at anything like that, rather than just, because this becomes, it's a polarizing issue. It becomes, are you for this or against this?
Yep.
And it just perpetuates this, like it's really unfortunate, because that's not how this community typically acts. And I feel like we just, like, this is a big picture thing. This is not just planning for this year or this budget or this council. This is a long-term plan, as someone mentioned already. And I think in order to think bigger, long-term plans, we have to think outside of the box. Like you said, we're a small township. We only have so many resources, but could we look to other outside groups or not-for-profits? Could we collaborate and come up with something together where everyone can kind of meet in the middle? Because I just feel like at this point, it's sort of, like I said, for or against, and it polarizes, and it's just one of those issues where you're not going to have everyone agree, but at least if somebody can budge a little and, that person, but like, I feel like collaboration could be there if we really sort of investigate that.
Sure. So
So
take a breath, Grace.
sorry, I
First
know.
of all, welcome. You're doing a great job. So let me give you something to think about.
Okay.
You asked about this issue and why we keep talking about it, why it's here. So at this point, this council has been following a direction from the previous term of council.
Yeah.
Of previous councillors that made a motion, it was seconded, and it was voted upon by the council of the day.
Mhm.
I want to point out too that the council of the day was 9 members. Sitting in front of you right now are 7 members.
Right.
So 9 members voted, and they wanted this study done. They wanted this review done. They wanted the public participation and the public input meeting held, which we did. And we also wanted our staff to review whether permitting could be available as you said, some sort of collaborative option.
Mhm.
And we did all that. Okay. That's what this report is. I hope you've read the report and not just heard the rumors about it,
Yes.
because to be honest, that's the biggest issue. So can I add one more thing?
Sure.
The province of Ontario has given municipalities a responsibility
Mhm.
to either opt in or opt out. You understand? So our roadways can either have them or not. As the previous speaker mentioned, the township to the south of us, their council voted to opt them out. This council voted to this council voted to opt them in, right? However, the discussion that took place was that a certain area would be treated separately than the rest of the body called Clearview.
Right.
That's actually an error in law because we cannot be treating a municipality
Yes.
differently.
I agree.
You and I are neighbors, right?
I agree.
You live in Creemore, is that right? I live
Yes,
in
we're all
Ottawa.
Creemore, but yes, I'm not in the village.
We're
but yes,
part of
we're-
the same
Yes.
community.
I agree.
Thank you.
I agree.
So that responsibility that was passed down to us by the province didn't give us the collaborative opportunities of, we tried to work those things out. They said in or out.
And now that we've opted in, is there a way to, like I said, collaborate on some sort of in between that's other than the options, I guess, that have been presented so far?
Yeah. So that's what we've been trying to do.
Okay.
We're trying to resolve that here. And I think we've, first of all, as a council, we took the recommendation seriously, and we directed our CAO to prepare a public engagement meeting. We also, through the CAO and the clerk, we were able to get the staff to prepare a very good report. By the way, and this is a comment I was going to say for later. I'll throw some credit to the clerk. This is one of the first reports that this council has seen in many, many, many years that actually is authored by 3 members of our staff. Many reports come from a single member of our staff. They get the approvals by different people, right? But this report that we're going to be seeing later on in the council meeting is one that's very unique in the fact that 3 members of our staff jointly collaborated to author a document that can address this problem that we created when we opened the roads for all of Clearview Township. Okay?
I understand.
So we're trying to solve it. That's what we're trying to do.
I guess.
We're yet to see what happens here.
Yeah. And I guess that, like I said, I think the frustrating thing is, it polarizes everything.
I know.
And it taints everything else that comes along. Anything that gets revisited, it's going to be this sort of polarizing.
And you know what? In our society right now, it's really unfortunate. Become very polarized in a lot of issues. A lot of issues.
Yes.
Canada Day is coming up. Some people don't want to celebrate Canada Day. Some people do want to celebrate, like whatever.
Exactly.
Okay. So there's much polarization going on. we at council have been very collaborative and working with each other. We also have very individual ideas and speak, very openly and honestly with each other. And so we're doing our best to bring forward democracy to, by the way, we're just talking
I
about this.
agree. And I like that you brought up the fact that
Yeah.
three people were collaborating on this. Because
Yeah,
it's
to
true,
create the document.
rather than just the usual one.
One
That
personal
shows a
opinion.
little
Yeah.
bit sort of extra focus to
Yeah.
sort of really.
Thank you. Well, we're doing what we can, and we'll see how the debate goes here in, 45 minutes or so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, for coming in. I just want to point out again, it's pretty easy to come and talk to us at council at this podium, really. Come on.
I think it's the microphone and the cameras.
Well, it's nothing.
I'm not usually a big.
Don't worry about it. You're doing fine. Good job. Thank you. Thank you very much. Last time, is there anybody else who'd like to come forward and speak? Is anybody coming forward to speak at public participation period? All right. Thank you very much. We'll close public participation period then at this time. And we're going to move on. We do have a deputation. Okay. Speaking of afraid at the microphone, Rosalind is never shy to the mic. Rosalind Morrison is here. She's going to do a presentation for us from the Institute of South Georgian Bay. And Roz, there you go. Make yourself comfortable. I think, Krista, have you got her report? I think you've got it. Okay. I'm going to put the chair right over to you. Go right ahead, Roz.
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Rosalind Morrison, and I am the volunteer chair for the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay. And I really don't have a love affair with the mic, but it's there and it's a good idea. We're here today to request a collaborative partnership with the Institute. You were involved last year. We're looking for an investment of $10,000 to become a collaborative program partner for the Institute's 2023 Regional Discussion Series. That series is called Community Planning, Creating a More Resilient and Sustainable Future Today. It's a unique opportunity for regional multi-sector partnership discussions to hold community events with residents, business, government, nonprofits, and philanthropists to discuss issues of our day, to connect with each other, to develop the relationships and trust that we need to do things perhaps we've never done before, to share knowledge, and to nurture collaborative projects relating to financing affordable housing, sustainability and climate action, new directions for business and innovation, and ensuring a strong arts and culture sector. Some of you may not be too familiar with the Institute, so we do have a slide deck and a few slides to share with you today, and I'd be happy at the end of it to answer any questions you might have. Next, please. So the Institute is looking at an area, geographic footprint, which includes 6 municipalities stretching from Wasaga Beach, Clearview, Collingwood, the town of the Blue Mountains, Grey Highlands, and over to Meaford. We're also attracting a lot of interest up to the Owen Sound area and over to the Midland area, where we can learn a lot from each other. Our newsletter subscribers have increased over the last couple of years from 100 to 550. We've had several events throughout the pandemic. We had 80 attendees at our last virtual event and 76 attendees at our March 2023 strategy session, where we gathered in the Marsh Street Center in Clarksburg to discuss what we might collaborate on for programming this year. Next, please. We think about holistic community development practices. We think about community conversations in a way that we can respond to bigger things that are happening. We're looking at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which Canada and 192 other countries signed on to in 2015. Collingwood has recently held over the last 3 years Collingwood World Summits, which looked at sustainability and climate action, as well as affordable housing. And in particular, we're looking at Sustainable Development Goal 11. It has a lot of the things that our towns need to ensure viability and sustainability. It has affordable housing, proactive approaches to environmental challenges, integrated planning, where we have more than one staff person or more than one council member across 6 municipalities talking and thinking and collaborating together. It talks about connecting innovative towns and innovative districts and protecting our natural and cultural heritage. So that's a framework that we're looking at, and we want to echo some of those things because they align quite directly with many of the strategic directions for our municipalities. So our vision really then is to harness the power of people in place across this beautiful area we call Southern Georgian Bay. And we're looking at growing a triple bottom line, if you will. Economic bottom line is extremely important, but it as equally important is the social bottom line and environmental bottom line. And we believe that the three of those things can be integrated and coexist effectively. Overall, we're looking to be the smartest, healthiest, greenest, and most caring region in Ontario. So it's quite aspirational. Next slide, please. In December, we held an event called Multi-Sector Partnerships and the Role of Philanthropy. And we looked at what multi-sector partnerships mean and how the major sectors can come together and invest in things and do things differently. And so that collaborative leadership required really means that people do need to get to know each other and build that trust so that we're doing things that we, in fact, have never done before. Next slide, please. So if anyone asks you, what does the Institute do? It's just three things. It's connecting people to develop those relationships. It's sharing knowledge so that we can accelerate our progress. And it's nurturing collaborative activities. It seems that these pressing issues are things that no one sector can possibly solve on their own. Next slide. Other notable achievements. The South Georgian Bay Arts Network was launched last year. It was a great event with 6 artists presenting their work. And probably about 80 people or so were packed into the Collingwood Brewery. And it was really the culmination of a series of community conversations where we connected artists and arts organizations and arts businesses together through pandemic virtual discussions. They got to know each other. They developed a regional arts strategy. And the first big thing on the strategy was to create a network. And so that was launched last year. A philanthropist came forward and put $10,000 on the table to support that network. So that gives you a model of how the Institute actually operates. I mentioned the multi-sector partnerships and the role of philanthropy. We heard from some amazing philanthropists and why they're involved in supporting the arts or the environment. We heard from one philanthropist who's just launched the South Georgian Bay Innovative Fund with over $1 million. So it's really interesting to start to look at that and how can we collectively build that kind of activity. We had the in-person strategy session in March. I will say that 5 mayors attended. We were thrilled with that. Many councillors, many business leaders, nonprofit leaders, and many philanthropists were in the room. We broke out into our 4 different priority areas that I've described previously and developed a potential framework for what we might do together this year. And we launched the South Georgian Bay Affordable Housing Toolkit. This was developed with one of our volunteer learning groups who were studying the issue of affordable housing, really trying to get to what is the problem we're trying to solve in our region. We published the Regional Affordable Housing Report, which identifies the fact that we need thousands of units to accommodate our service industry sector people. The workers who make between $15 and $25 an hour need rental units at about $1,000 or $1,500 a month. Then we thought, okay, well, over the pandemic, the building costs have increased dramatically. So how do we close the affordability gap once you actually build the units? And so that's when we started looking at social finance tools like community bonds or land trusts or cooperatives. And all of these ideas are things that we would like to bring together in one of the events that we would collaboratively co-create. Next slide, please. So if you want to learn about the history of the brief history of the Institute, you can find that in our new ebook, which we launched this year on our About page in the menu at the top of our website at www.tisgb.com. Next, please. So the 2023 work plan is being co-created as we speak. Last year, we did the local sustainable economies series to really understand deeply how do we build a sustainable local economy and what does that mean and what are the elements? How does that affect our economic development plans? How does that affect our housing plans or any of the other strategic directions we're all moving in? So this year we thought, let's build on that and let's have a community planning series where we're really talking about how do we collectively build a more resilient and sustainable future, but do it today with our planning. Next, please. So with your support, we would like to remind you to go to our website and look at the virtual events we've held so far, 2 on affordable housing. 1 unpacks the affordable housing toolkit that I mentioned earlier. The second one invites specialists from Ottawa who are developing the Ottawa Land Trust, where they are buying properties, existing rental units or land to dedicate that land to affordable housing. We're all on a very steep learning curve and we've got to do it quickly and hopefully together to figure out what are the strategic steps and what priority sequence should we be doing. We want to have a fall housing forum that we're all involved in creating so that we can look at what other jurisdictions are doing. So we can look at what Collingwood might be doing or the Blue Mountains or Meaford or Clearview to really identify together and agree on the problem we're trying to solve and then move on understanding what elements do we need to invest in to ensure that we're closing that housing affordability gap. We want to look at a social enterprise hub and new directions for business. There are lots of businesses now called social enterprises that have that triple bottom line I was talking about earlier. The federal government is investing $700 million over 10 years to support and encourage more social enterprises, new ways of doing business. We want to have a gathering around sustainability in the green economy. We love our beautiful areas. We want to protect those. We want to protect our natural heritage. But we also want to make sure that we're understanding what our economic development plans should be for the future and what does that green economy look like. And we also want to ensure that we're supporting regional arts programming so that we're able to support the South Georgian Bay Arts Network and bringing artists, arts organizations, all the cultural staff in the various municipalities together to focus on things that are important to ensuring the success of that sector. Next slide, please. So what would we do with the money you might be investing? We would invite you to the table to co-create the programming, and then we'd put it back into the local economy. We'd be hiring younger people to work with us on communications, on helping with our virtual and live events, and on our website and social media. Next slide, please. So we've talked today about being a lead partner. Hopefully you will consider that. There are 2 other options as a supporting partner. I will let you know that Collingwood has confirmed their participation as a lead partner. Meaford has confirmed their participation as a supporting partner. I did a deputation at the Blue Mountains this morning, Grey Highlands deputation and Wasaga Beach deputation to come. Next slide, please. Municipal partner benefits, of course, you're at the table, you're creating the programming with all of us together that we need, and we're aligning our objectives so that we have greater impact together. Next slide, please. So we hope you'll join us. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Rosalind. That was a good presentation. And I'll look to council first if there's any questions they have of Rosalind. Nope, not seeing any. I'll give you a quick compliment if you don't mind. The ideal that you're working with other municipalities together is actually really, really important. It's certainly one of our objectives of our current strategic plan that says that we want to work with our neighboring municipalities. Mm-hmm. And we're in the middle of our work for our new renewed strategic plan. And I have heard that spoken a few times at some of our engagement meetings when we've met with the public, that it's important to work with our neighboring municipalities. And so we do find many opportunities to do that, both, from council, from our staff level, for sure. And I find it really interesting too, that In this region, we have the CAO Mayors Forum, which is a sort of a non-official group of networking between the CAOs and the mayors from each of those same municipalities you just mentioned. So we're doing a lot of that already, and we're very proud to be part of that. So thank you very much for your presentation. And I think it's great that we're sort of all speaking the same language here.
Great.
Well, I would give you one thing to think about.
Mhm.
The municipality has two what we call intakes on our granting structure. So our granting structure is open in the fall and in the spring each year. So there's a fall, I'm thinking end of September. Is that about approximately that? Wouldn't it be, Krista? I think it's something like that. End of September is when we generally have letters that go out to some of the groups that we help with our community grant programs. And then we're now initiating through a policy we just changed that we're going to have a spring intake as well. I'm not sure what the date is on that, but nevertheless, I would hope that you'd be able to reach out to us and find those dates to make an intake for our grant program, which would then support what you're asking for.
Thank you for letting me know about that. If I may, I would have a comment about that. We see this differently than grant work.
Sure.
We see this as bringing the sectors together. We're a nonprofit, yes, but what we're looking at is bringing all the sectors together with investments from all the sectors. This is not something that social services organizations or other things could be doing.
Yep.
So we hope you will consider. There are many operating lines in municipal budgets. This crosses many department lines. So I hope you will give it some consideration.
For sure. Well, we appreciate that. And yes, we, of course, has to be fiscally responsible
Yes.
and be transparent about where and how we make those type of contributions. So that's why I'm saying that's the process that's open for us at this time. So we'll work it out.
Okay.
Good, Roz. It's great
Thanks
to
very
see you
much.
again. Thank
All
you
right.
for all the programs you guys run.
You're very welcome.
Good job. All right, members of council, we're going to move on in our fine agenda here. Item 6 is the public meetings, and I believe there are no public meetings tonight. However, I will remind the public that we do have a planning public meeting on Wednesday evening. So that will be coming on Wednesday evening. Item 7 is the approval of the council meeting minutes. There are 2 meeting minutes that are attached. So I'll read the resolution and then I'll look for a mover and seconder. Be it resolved that council of the township of Clearview hereby approves the minutes of the May 29, 2023 and June 5, 2023 council meetings as presented. Can I have a mover and seconder? Deneen and Walker. Thank you very much. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes. Anybody got anything from those minutes that you want to chat about? Okie dokie. Moving on. Communications from the mayor. I have just a one strong item on here, and that's the NVCA launches their online store. We've received a media release in regards to that. I think that's an important thing for people to look at. Paul, did you want to add anything about the NVCA or you want to do that a little later on in your report? Okay, in your report, you can talk about it there. All right. Is there any questions about that item that came from the NVCA? All right. Thank you, guys. We'll move on then right to count number 10, which is our county reports. We have a release here about the Warden's Gala, nearly $45,000 in support of the United Way. I was able to attend the gala and found it to be a lot of fun. The deputy mayor was there and Broderick, Mr. Broderick. Yes, he was wearing a very dashing bolero is what you were. I remember that. It was good. It was a great event, and the United Way, of course, is a good organization for sure. The county welcomes 38 new Canadians at a citizenship ceremony, which is wonderful. That was held right in the council chambers. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, but I do know that it was a really, really warm event. I do want to speak briefly, if I can, on the discontinuance of the amnesty vouchers, although it doesn't really clearly state it right there in that, and you have to read the details to understand what that is. Our Public Works Department received amnesty vouchers from the County of Simcoe for the occasion when they have to pick up garbage that are found on our roadways, whether they be discarded couches or refrigerators or whatever they find on the side of the road. And we have had a lengthy relationship with the County of Simcoe to be able to have a voucher that covers the expense for that to be dropped off at a waste management facility. That is being discontinued. That's disappointing. But what's mostly disappointing is when people discard things on our roadways. That's the most disappointing part of the whole thing, isn't it? So your municipality will now be paying yet again to get rid of waste like that gets needlessly dropped off on the side of the road. Dan, do you have anything you want to say on that? Or I guess our crew are aware of that, right?
Your worship, the only thing I'd say is that we are tracking. I specifically knew about this was coming. And I've asked our staff to track what they take to the county dump over the year.
Yeah.
So by the fall, when it's time to include a budget item for this this loss of the voucher, then we'll have a better idea of what it might cost us in 2024.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Yes, go ahead, Paul.
Dan, one further comment to that. I guess everybody's aware or should be aware they'll be closing the dump in Collingwood. I say closing, they will not be using it. They'll use it as a transfer station. And the one at Site 10 in our Nottawasaga will be ceasing in the next couple of years as it is filling up as well. One thing I'd ask, if there's any way we can track where we're finding, if we start finding the garbage, because it'd be really disappointing to find out people can't dump in Collingwood and all of a sudden they come to Clearview and offload on the side of dead end roads and stuff like that. So if we can do anything like that, I don't know if it's possible, but if we have to go back to the county and say, listen, we got a problem here. You've created a problem. We might have some information to fight with.
Good point. Good point, Deputy Mayor. Okay, Dan?
Through your worship, I can let you know if a resident called in, like say somebody had noticed something on the side of the road or at a dead end or something like that. We do create like a call list or a work order type system that tracks those things. Now, if somebody were to just see something on the side of the road and pick it up, I'll get them to note it and keep track of it that way.
All right. Again, please, citizens, don't put garbage on the side of the road like that. That's awful. People do that. Just take it to the dump. You'd be surprised how little it actually costs to get rid of a couch. It's not difficult. Okay. Moving on. The county council reports. Sorry, I'm just reading something else here. Ward reports are going to start right now, and we're going to go right to Councillor Broderick first. Mr. Broderick, how are you doing?
Doing well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start with June 8th, attended with Mayor Measures and Deputy Mayor Van Staveren, the Warden's Gala Dinner, which, as we saw earlier, raised nearly $45,000 in support of United Way Simcoe Muskoka. June 14th, attended the Clearview Chamber of Commerce executive meeting. On the 15th, attended the Clearview Chamber of Commerce Business After 5 social gathering, which was hosted by Creemore Brewery, which actually included a tour of the facilities. It was pretty awesome, actually. On the 16th, took in the Creemore Summer Solstice celebration hosted by the Creemore BIA. On the 20th, attended the Clearview Culture and Sports Hall of Fame Awards dinner, featuring keynote speaker, Olympic medalist Elizabeth Manley. Her story was, I found it extremely moving and inspirational, and her message on mental health was very raw and very real. On the 21st, attended the regular meeting of the Chamber of Commerce, which is now on break for the summer and will resume in September. The Chamber's executive meetings will continue through July and August. And earlier today, attended the Clearview official plan workshop, and here we are.
Well, thank you very much.
You.
You're a busy guy. Yes, Councillor MacArthur, how are you doing?
Very good, Your Worship. Summertime's here, as Councillor Broderick stated. Summer solstice in Creemore last Friday was humongous success. And of course, great weather brings great crowds. I would estimate 400 or 500 people minimum. Farmers markets in full swing now every Saturday morning in Creemore Station on the Green for anybody that needs stuff that they really don't need. Food wise, that is steaks and all kinds of baked goods, you name it, it's there. Starting this weekend, of course, the Canada Day celebrations and whatnot, the Village on the Green is starting their summer entertainment lineup. It's advertised in the paper. So this is going to go all summer, every Sunday afternoon, as our public speakers stated earlier, with exercise classes in the morning, and looks like a great entertainment lineup. So if you're stuck for something to do after church on Sundays, head to Creemore. And just to elaborate on Councillor Broderick about the award banquet on Tuesday night there with Elizabeth Manley, if anybody gets a chance to go and hear this lady speak, you have to do it. Just as John said, I was just blown away. I've never seen a crowd be quiet for 20 minutes in a long, long time. Thank you.
Couldn't agree more. It was absolutely stellar. Go ahead, Paul.
Thank you. I'll
Van
just
Stavern?
add one thing to that. We took a picture of the council because every council member was there with Elizabeth, and I've now got it as my screensaver because her big message was about mental health and working together. So it was a really positive effect. So amongst other things that was already mentioned, we've been to this past Friday, June 23rd, we had a meeting with the NVCA, and it was very interesting. We got right now the NVCA is doing a review of all fees, and is done by a company called Watson and Associates, and they're looking at improving the costs and turning around, and especially with the effect of Bill 23. So most people be aware with Bill 23, you are not allowed to increase any of your fees for 2023. So all you're allowed to do is look at recovering your cost. So right now they're looking at that, what they can do to recover costs, and various sections that we work within. We do not do a very good job at cost recovery. So our big thing always as an executive is how can you show more responsibility, turnover times for the people who are making the applications, and they're well aware of that. They're working towards it. I've had a discussion earlier today with our CAO, and we have. Just for discussion, there is 18 member municipalities that belong to the NVCA, and they do not align with the county of Simcoe because we have one from town of Blue Mountains, Melancton, Grey Highlands, and thereabouts. They are looking at getting every community to sign a memorandum of understanding. So they'll be talking with John, our CAO, and he is reviewing some of the issues within it. Just as a comment about the NVCA's operations, they leverage themselves about 4 to 1. So for every dollar that we contributed as a contributing partner, they leverage it another 4 times over. So they're very much into fundraising and getting grants and everything else. And they're doing a good job as trying to be as resourceful as they can, sort of thing. So we'll hear more about that in the coming years, but I just wanted everybody to understand that right now, 2% when an application is made for fees, as far as an application for building, 2% of the cost goes towards the NVCA. So it's not a big number when people start complaining about it, but they are doing the best they can. So anyways, just a quick comment on what's going on with the NVCA. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Paul. We'll go to Phyllis. Hello, Phyllis.
My turn. Hello.
Hello.
And I concur with my esteemed colleagues as far as the awards presentation, and Elizabeth Manley. That was really an interesting and educational night. And thank you for everybody for putting that on. Thanks, Terry and crew. I just want to say congratulations to all the Clearview grads. This is the end of school this week. I hope they have a safe and fun summer holiday, and everybody take care out there on our roads. They'll all be out running around, I'm sure. And I want to say thank you to everyone who donated to our scrap metal drive at the Nottawa Memorial Community Center. Our final total was in the amount of $5,840.97.
Fantastic.
And again, many thanks to the Stainer Lions and Councillor Walker. It was very successful, and we appreciate it very, very much. That's it for me. Thanks.
Well done. Well done. Counselor Beelan, how you doing, Marty?
Thank you, your worship. You're welcome. I donated $20 first. So,
Oh, good for you.
I attended the last strategic plan meeting at the Nottawa Hall. That's the first time I was in that hall. It was kind of nice to be there. I attended the Sports Hall of Fame dinner, and I was honored to present Chris Greer with the Athlete of the Year award. The mayor's not the only one that gets invited to birthday parties. I attended Art Moore's 90th birthday party. He has all the aces on the lawn. If ever you've been through our ward, he's quite a card, I guess.
He's quite a card.
Ashley Morrison of the Georgian Bay Forever Group did a presentation to the Georgian Bay Anglers Association. They're going to be putting out little canisters along the streams for anyone that has spent the fishing line. This fishing line can get caught in trees and logs. It traps birds and frogs and fish and stuff like that. They've even had a little baby owl trapped in it. So they're putting out these canisters, and Berkeley's is going to recycle the fishing line. Also, they are sending out little canisters like this out into Georgian Bay. They're going to be red, and they're going to be floating around, and they're going to look like garbage. And they want you to leave them in the water. They're going to have GPS tracking device on them, and they can track how the garbage flows with the current and with the wind, and then they know better where to pick up all the garbage. So if you're like me and you're boating and you see some garbage, you usually net it and dispose of it. They don't want you to do that. They've already had one person take one home. They followed them there with the GPS, said, can we have that back? So they'll be red and about this shape floating around Georgian Bay. She may want to come and do a deputy presentation here.
Okay.
She's going to do it in Wasaga Beach, Collingwood, Meaford, and Blue Mountains. And finally, on a personal note, this has to do with mental health. I got my biopsy results back. They were negative. That's
Yay.
quite a relief for mental health, I'll tell you that. That's it.
Well done. Congratulations. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we'll start with the June 13th. The Accessibility Committee met at Station on the Green, and we did a tour of the patios for AODA compliance. Unfortunately, the weather was cold and a little damp. So there was, the patios were set up, but not in service. And the committee has got some recommendations that we'll be bringing forward in September when the patio policy review comes up in the fall, I believe is when it's to be reviewed.
I think that's what we're doing it. Yeah. September.
On the 16th of June, I attended the men's breakfast or the men's coffee at Blue Mountain Manor again. And this time we had 6 gentlemen out instead of 2, like we had the month before. And I also participated in their open house yesterday. And as Councillor MacArthur said, I want to know if I was booking a room. And I said, well, I've certainly had a good look at them. And yeah, I could very well be booking a room in there. It would be quite lovely to be in. I'll tell you that right now. Again, the 20th June Sports Culture Hall of Fame. Great evening to all those involved. Well done. Thank you. On the 20th, we also had the library board meeting. And then we had the official workshop today. And also this Thursday, I have 2 grandsons, both graduating from Standard Collegiate.
Excellent.
So that's why I'm looking at booking at Blue Mountain Manor. It means I'm getting old. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. That's great. Well, I tell you what, Councillor, go ahead. Paul wants to say something.
Sorry, Councillor Walker, I didn't know if you picked up. I had a little chat with Amanda Murray before this past weekend. We had the Rough Mudder event in Rough Mudder. And I drove by it. I was going to Toronto. I drove by it, and I was flabbergasted at the vehicles and the turnout and the people, and having discussions with Amanda. She explained they had a good turnout. They had a good event. So kudos to the Abernant group and the people over there. They did a great job, and it is one of our signature events, and a lot of people who will see more of it, I'm sure, in the future. So just a little add to.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you mentioned it. I unfortunately was able to get to it, but I've been to it many years ago, and it's a terrific event. A lot of passion there and a lot of fun.
Well, Councillor Broderick, you were saying your daughter participated in it. If you want to,
is that right? Good for you. How did she do?
Pretty good. Actually, she actually 2 of my daughters with one dog.
Oh, with one dog.
Waffles. We only have one dog,
Okay.
and that's our youngest daughter's dog. But yeah, they had a really good time. It was 5.5 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and yeah, they got muddy.
Right. So the dog dragged the people along.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Basically, yeah.
That's great. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. I have a couple of quick comments. First of all, Councillor Walker, I hope to see you at Stainer Collegiate on graduation Thursday night. Are you going to be there? Excellent, because I have been invited to be on stage and participate in the ceremonies as well. So I'll be there, and I'll certainly give you a shout out. How's that? I'll be looking for you. Although I sure hope they get the air conditioning working in there. I don't think they do. Boy, it's a rough barn sometimes. Anyhow, happy to be there, and I'm also going to be at Collingwood Collegiate earlier in the afternoon. We're doing a graduation there too. I do want to mention I did get to participate, folks, in my first Niagara Escarpment Commission meeting. That was very interesting, and to work with municipalities and citizens right across the Niagara Escarpment. That was very interesting and good to get to know some of them. The meetings are continuing in a virtual format. There will be a couple of meetings in person down in Georgetown, but apparently they find the virtual formats much better. So we'll see how that goes. I've never been a big fan of it, so I'm hoping that we do have some in-person meetings. So I'm looking forward to participating in that. I want to mention, as many of us have, the Culture and Sports Hall of Fame. It was a terrific event, as it always is, because we're very, very honored and lucky to have such great sporting excellence happen right across Clearview Township, whether it was last year or whether it was 50 years ago. I think it's wonderful that we have that opportunity to recognize citizens across our community. And I encourage the citizens to make a nomination. If you know of a great story of some sporting event or cultural event or art event, or even a volunteer who has done some amazing work for years and years and years, to bring forward your nomination. The nomination process is actually the key to a successful Hall of Fame. And so as much as fun as we have in the evening when we do the event, it's getting that nomination. Put a couple of paragraphs together, ask some people to help you write it. It can be done. And that's the best part about the whole Hall of Fame, in my opinion. I also want to say that I know that our staff have been working on it, and there's a space just in the lobby hallway entrance by the library at the Stainer Community Center. And that hall does have the permanent plaques that go on the wall. And I know that Terry has mentioned to me, as Amanda has mentioned to me, that we're going to work on the digital content that'll be available on the computer there. So I'm really hoping to get an update on that sometime soon and see that we have all of this honestly great recognition about our community get recorded and digitally recorded on there so we can have it available for people to see. Now, Elizabeth Manley, wow, what a superstar. The girl, she spoke about her experiences. She spoke about all the mental health challenges she dealt with and the challenges she dealt with the figure skating authorities and regulations and her age. She's just a young woman at the time doing this. But I have to say, I left thinking she's tremendously brave. She's a brave woman who did what she did. And so I'm very, very honored that she was here in our community, and she's now moved to our region. So I look forward to seeing her again and having good conversations. She's a great lady. So that was really nice to have Elizabeth Manley with us. Now, I'll see you all at Canada Day. And if I don't, I'll wish you all a happy Canada Day anyway. How's that? It's coming up here on Saturday. Our parade has been just adjusted a little bit. I know we had an initial plan to have a pretty substantial route, but the construction going on the 27-28 side road where the new traffic signals are going in is causing us a little bit of heartburn and members of the OPP. So the route for the parade has been changed a little bit. Please check the website if you're unsure. And I'm sure that we'll make sure that the marshals who are running the event will make sure that it'll go off smoothly as possible with as least interruption. But the one really positive thing is we will be going downtown Stainer in the downtown core of Stainer with the parade route. Right now, the plan is if it changes, Dan's going to let us know. But right now, that's the route. So we're very grateful that Ben Gorham Highlands are going to be there. There's many people that are entering. So I think it's a wonderful thing to do and celebrate Canada on Canada Day with a little parade. It's kind of a fun event. Not to be outdone, however, we're going to go do some fireworks down in Creemore later on. I've got an invitation from the Legion to participate in cake cutting. Come on, I go to birthday parties, Marty, but now I'm going to a cake cutting too. Do you want to join me at that? I'll see you there at the Legion. You know what the Legion is. Okay, then I'll make sure we'll see you there. Cake cutting for Canada Day as well in Creemore. And I understand there's a bicycle parade there happening as well. So that'll be a lot of fun. So happy Canada Day, everybody. Please enjoy our beautiful country and have a wonderful day. All right, guys, we're going to move on with our agenda. Is that good? Our agenda now takes us to the Planning and Building Department underneath Department Reports, item 12. Okay, I've got a recommendation here. I'll read it and then I'll look for a mover and seconder. This is report PB 029-2023. It's a zoning bylaw amendment for 111 George Street. The recommendation is, be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report PB 029-2023, zoning bylaw amendment 111 George Street, dated June 29, 2023. And item 2, that a zoning bylaw for the lands municipally known as 111 George Street and legally described as part of lot 43 and 44, Plan 315, formerly Creemore, now in the Township of Clearview, be presented to Council for approval at the July 10th, 2023 meeting. Okay, I'll take a mover and seconder. Mover anywhere. Deline, thank you. Seconder, MacArthur, thank you. Okay, first of all, I'll look to the staff. Is there anything you want to add to your report? I'm not sure. Are you handling it, Amy or Roz?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Hi.
Rosalind is the planner assigned to the file. She's happy to answer any technical questions, as am I. The zoning bylaw amendment is proposed to facilitate the severance of the existing dwelling on the Zhang subdivision lands in the village of Creemore. The proposal seeks to amend the zoning bylaw and the zoning applicable to the lands from, to residential low density with exception 10.
Okay. All right. And nothing further you want to add? I'll go to councilors. Members of council, do you have any questions for this report? All right. Seeing none. Thank you, staff. Prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? Carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Council, we're moving on to our Committee of Adjustment report, PB 034. Recommendation be it resolved that report PB 034 2023 dated June 26, 2023 be received. Could I have a mover and seconder? Mr. Broderick, Mr. Van Stavern. Any questions on the Committee of Adjustment report? Yes, Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Worship. Hopefully it's just an oversight that the first two have locations and the last three do not. So and do not have a civic address.
Oh,
it just talks about the name and the minor variance. It doesn't give us a location. So I would that would help certainly help some of us not realize where that is. Thank you.
Well, maybe that's on the other side of the chart for me. I don't think I looked at that. Let's have a look. Yeah, I did. Staff, do you have any comment on that?
Through you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Walker. We've noted the error and we will fix it for future charts and reports on this. Thank you.
Aha. Thank you. All right. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Councillor Walker. All right. With that, is there anything further? All right. All right, Council, you've got a mover and seconder. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that's also unanimous. Thank you. All righty. We have a zoning bylaw amendment for 2562 County Road 124. Let's see. Recommendation be it resolved. Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one. Receive report PB 035 2023. It's a zoning bylaw amendment for 2562 County Road 124 dated June 26, 2023. Item 2, that a zoning bylaw for the lands municipally known as 2562 County Road 124 and legally described as south part of Lot 23, Concession 9, formerly Nottawasaga, now in the Township of Clearview, be presented to Council for approval at the earliest available meeting, provided the undertaking of the owner to address the mitigation measures as outlined in the environmental impact study and staff report have been received to the township's satisfaction. Can I have a mover and seconder on that motion? Mr. MacArthur and Mr. Beelan, thank you. All right. Staff, you got any comments you want to add to this?
Thank you, Your Worship. Once again, just a quick summary. The zoning bylaw amendment is proposed to facilitate construction of a single detached dwelling and associated appurtenances. The lands are proposed to be rezoned from environmental protection to rural with exception 20.
Okay. Any questions from members of council? No. can I just clarify then for the public, be received to the township satisfaction? That would be the planning department and the CAO. Was that correct?
Thank you, your worship. Certainly, and in addition, we would be working with our expert environmental reviewer at RG Burnside.
Right. Whatever that would be, would come back to your department and then through the CAO would then grant the authorization. Is that
Yes,
correct?
to bring it
Okay.
back. It's essentially a test.
Yeah.
A yes, no test. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, members of council, nothing further? All right, you've got a mover and seconder. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? And that carries unanimous. Thank you. All right, council, moving on. Parks, Recreation and Culture. All right, we've got a report here on the Eco Park floating dock project. Recommendation, I'll look for this and then I'll look for a mover and seconder. Recommendation be it resolved. Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PCR 014-2023 Eco Park Floating Dock Project. And item 2, approve the quotation from Docks Unlimited in the amount of $46,220 plus HST for a floating dock to be installed at the Eco Park in Stayner. Is there a mover and seconder on the motion? Mr. Broderick. Ms. Deneen. Thank you. Okay, staff, do you have anything you want to add to this report?
Thank you, your worship. Not much to add. Just want to point out just a general comment that this project was part of our 2023 budget, as well as it's also part of our Clearview Eco Park plan. We're very happy that the amounts came in within our $50,000 budget. As we know, a lot of our purchases recently are coming in much higher than we had anticipated. So I'm really happy to see that this is within our budget. I have with us tonight part of my team, Miss Murray, who's very knowledgeable on the project details and is available for any technical questions if required.
All right, thank you very much. Members of council, any questions to this project? Yes, Mr. Beelan first, then Mr. Walker looking down the hall. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Beelan.
Thank you, your worship. Do we have any money budgeted for cleaning and upkeep of the dock? Because I know when we go launch our boat in Collingwood, there's geese that use those docks as their public washroom, so they can be a mess in a hurry.
Yes. Thank you. Through you, your worship, the council Beelan. Yes, the cleaning of the docks is part of our operational budgets. So we have an overall maintenance budget for our parks. And there's one specifically for the eco park. So maintaining those docks would be part of that budget. We also have a full-time staff that works at the eco park. She works diligently to make sure that the place looks immaculate. So I feel very confident that she'll be able to make sure that those docks are in a safe manner at all times.
Great, thank you. I think Mr. Walker has a question. Anybody else on council? Go ahead, Mr. Walker.
Yeah, thank you. I see that we do have some safety measures put in place. Will there also be signage as to issues, possible liabilities, potential danger? And the other thing I'm hoping that the vandalism does not take place.
Okay.
With that, I'm going to refer to Dan. We put the bollards along North Street, and they've all been ripped out and thrown in the long grass. That was the safety measure to ensure that the children could walk safely. This is, again, our signage and our safety stuff is a safety measure for people to enjoy. So I'm hoping that it will be left alone and respected. Thank you.
Go ahead, Terry. And I see Amanda has joined us at the podium. Go ahead.
Thank you, your worship. I'll just comment regarding the vandalism, and then Miss Murray could answer the signage question. Regarding the vandalism, we have recently purchased a cell phone style cameras, and that you can hide in a conspicuous location. So we're planning on having that one installed specifically for the dock, as there's some waterways involved. So we're hoping to be able to capture if anything happens from a vandalism perspective. It may not stop folks from doing it, but at least maybe if we catch a few, the word gets out and hopefully that they would stop. We have put in some of those measures for other vandalism that we've had at the eco park, such as the Memorial Forest as an example. We caught the folks that were doing it, and the word got out, and it seems to have cleaned up a little bit since then. So it's little baby steps, and we're hoping to be able to solve that moving forward.
Ms. Murray, nice to see you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, your worship.
The signage?
Yeah, so just with respect to the signage, the only additional signs at the dock will be speaking to the life ring that will be available. So in the event that somebody does go into the pond, there will be a life ring available and instructions on how to use it, as well as including the emergency address. So should 911 have to be contacted, it will specifically state the location you are within the park, as well as the immediate address to provide to 911.
All right, that's good. Of course, a lot of locals know it as Meech Lake, but I guess we'll have a proper name on it, whatever it's called, right? All right, Meech. Is there anybody else on council? Is any further questions or comments? I know, frankly, it was a little controversial at budget time. Seems like so long ago, but I think our staff have delivered a very good report with some reasonable expectations. All right, nothing further. Okay, thank you, staff. Members of council, we've had a good discussion on it, and we've had an opportunity to consider it. You've got a mover and seconder, and I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That's a unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Another one for the old PCR department, though, is the Creemore Community Center Hall flooring, which is flooring in the recreation department, Terry, has been something we've talked about year after year after year. I must give you a great compliment, though, on the flooring in the lobby of the Stainer Community Center and the arena. It looks much better than it's ever looked in the past. So let's talk about the Creemore Community Center now. I'll read the recommendation. I'll look for a mover and second. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report PCR 015-2023, the Creemore Community Center Hall flooring dated June 26, 2023. And item 2, the council approved the quotation submitted by BCI Beechwood Contract Interiors Limited, in the amount of $43,392 plus HST sole sourcing for the specialized epoxy flake product. I'll look for a mover. Is that Mr. MacArthur? And Mr. MacArthur, and then Mr. Broderick will be the mover and the seconder. Terry, tell us a little bit about the epoxy flake product.
Thank you, Worship. And yes, you're right. Since I've been here in the last 6 years, roads is a big thing, and flooring seems to be another. But I'm happy to report that I think we're finding the proper products for our facilities. This one here, if anybody knows, one of my colleagues, Mr. Gowan, he takes that community center in Creemore extremely serious. And he did a lot of good work here, researching the proper type of flooring that could be used for that hall. It's becoming more of a multi-use hall. It's been used quite a bit for pickleball lately, and it's still weddings and family reunions. So you kind of have to find that mixed of the proper flooring that's resilient for recreation purposes, as well as it looks pretty good and good for pictures. And so we found this product. It's, if you can believe it, is actually sold locally here in Stainer by this provider and by BCI Beechwood. And fortunately or unfortunately, they're the only ones that sell this product. We've went out to 3 other suppliers, and they don't have access to this product. So it's an epoxy that gets poured down. It's like a pouring style. It gets done nice and level. It's one product. There's no tiles, there's no lifting, that kind of thing. It's a very durable epoxy. It's almost like a cement base with nice looking flakes inside. So we're very happy that we fell on this product, and we highly recommend it to council to allow us to purchase this product.
Okie dokie. I'll look for any questions from members of council. I'll go to Mr. MacArthur first.
Yeah, so I'm assuming the old floor will be ripped up then before this is put down. And have you went and checked out other jobs that this product's been used on anywhere locally? Or?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Through you, the Councillor MacArthur. Yes, the old flooring will be removed. And I personally haven't done the due diligence, but my understanding is Mr. Gowan has. He's worked with a supplier. I don't know them offhand. Sorry, he's worked with a supplier to identify other locations. I just don't know them offhand. I can get you that information, but my understanding is Mr. Gowan has done that due diligence. Yes.
Okie dokie. Phyllis, Deneen?
So is it, I'm sorry, Terry, I haven't been in the building. Is it on concrete slab already?
It will be.
It will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now there's like some sort of commercial tiles, it's kind of down. That'll be
Yeah.
removed. It'll go down to the cement and this product gets poured on top of the cement. Yes.
Okay, so vinyl sheeting wouldn't have been,
No.
no, it wouldn't have worked there. I just, yeah, okay.
Sorry, Your Worship. Sorry, Your Worship, through Councilor Deneen. It may work. We feel that this product would be better.
Okay,
Yeah, the vinyl could have been used, but we find this is something new and innovative, and we think it's a better product.
I know, yeah, it doesn't work well on plywood floors. That's why I'm asking, because the plywood floors move and it cracks. Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, that's good input. Anybody else? Yes, Mr. Walker?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, it's basically self-leveling. It's very similar to the gyms in some of the schools. It's a rubberized poured floor as well in a lot of your school board gyms. So, and has stood up for 20 some years quite well. So I'm assuming this product will do the same. So that's a good deal.
Go ahead, Phil. Yeah.
So there is a warranty though, since there isn't a lot of this out there?
Yes,
a good
there is.
warranty?
Yes, through Your Worship, Councilor Deneen, there is a warranty. I don't know off top of my head again. I can get the information, but yes, there is a warranty on the product.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I was going to ask the same question about warranty, so I'm glad that was brought up. I'd be interested to see this when it's done. So it does sound really exciting, and it sounds appropriate. So given that your staff have done some research, I think that's fair. The price is reasonable, and it's always good to support local when we can. So, all right, members of council, nothing further. All right, thank you, Terry. And council, we've got a mover and seconder on this recommendation, so I'm prepared to call a motion. All those in favor? That also passes unanimous. Thank you very much. Council, we're going to go to Public Works Department, stop sign bylaw. It's always fun to talk about stop signs. Dan? Okay. Recommendation, be it resolved, the council of the Corporation of Township of Clearview. One, receive report PW 016-2023. Stop sign bylaw dated June 23, 2023, and that a bylaw be enacted to erect stop signs at the intersections of Regina Street and Valleyfield Crescent, Spruce Street and Valleyfield Crescent, and Christopher Street and Charles Street. Okay, can I have a mover and seconder on that? Mr. Walker, thank you. And seconded by Deneen, thank you. I'd like to add to the, before we ever start, just pulling out of the township of the arena library just today, I nearly got clipped by somebody going through there. So maybe we should talk about that spot too. But nevertheless, that was my moment as I was coming through. I know it's in this intersection, so we'll see how that goes. Danny, what do you want to say about stop signs?
Your Worship, and I'm certain there's probably other stop signs that are probably missing from a bylaw at some point. So we'll be working with the clerk's department over the coming months into the fall and maybe the winter to address some of those missing stop signs or stop signs that are missing from a bylaw. We'll work at correcting those. The two locations of Valleyfield Crescent, one is at the arena entrance and another one on Spruce Street. I think it is just an oversight perhaps when the phase one of the Zancor development started or finished. There was never a stop sign put up there.
Right.
I think that those two locations, and the other location is just a difficult intersection at Christopher and how Charles comes at it at such an angle that it's tricky there. So we'll be working on others that have come up over time in the coming months.
Before I go to council, then can I ask, is there any further white stop bars going on the painting at these intersections?
Your Worship, we do have some money that we can add the bars along with the stop signs for sure. And that's another part of the painting program that is growing as well. That
the painting program is growing. I agree with you. We have a lot of painting to do in this township.
Yeah. So I know the contractor has started in starts and stops, but they'll be working over the summer months to get some of those things done. But the stop blocks are certainly they're growing.
Yeah.
I think when I started here 4 years ago, I think we did about 35, and I think we're almost up to 100 now. So
right. Well, we're really glad that you and your department are very cooperative to accept the recommendations of council to put them in. How's that? Members of council, any questions to Dan in regards to, yes, I'll go to MacArthur first.
Yeah, more of a comment than anything, Dan, just new stop sign went in Creemore on Mary Street in Francis, I believe it is there, like a year and a half ago. And just on Saturday, me and the wife pulled up and a kid drove right through it. So I'm just wondering, I don't think we ever put big new on top of these new stop signs when they're erected, but for educational purposes, I think we should try and come up with something to highlight them.
Dan?
Yeah, thank you, your worship. And typically when we do install new stop signs, I'll say the new Starburst tab does go on it for typically about a month or two. I'm not sure in this scenario how if they went up or not, but we certainly do put them up and we'll certainly put them up at these locations, even though there's a three-way stop essentially in two of those scenarios. We'll put up a new all-way stop, Starburst.
Sounds good. Any other questions to Dan? All right, thank you to you and your department. Appreciate those comments. Members of council, we've got a mover and seconder on a motion. If there's nothing further, I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. Here's something of interest. Finance Department has something for us for the Housing Accelerator Fund. All right, I'll read the recommendation and look for a mover and seconder. Recommendation be it resolved. Council of the Township Clearview hereby one, receive report FIN 008-2023 Housing Accelerator Fund dated June 26, 2023. And item two, that council approve the action plan as outlined in this report and directs the treasurer to apply for the CMCH Housing Accelerator Fund when applications open. I'll move by Deneen. Is there a seconder? Mr. Broderick, thank you very much. All right, Kelly, it'd be great to hear about this. I enjoyed the report. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a federal grant program that we're hearing the applications should be open June 30th. So I'm doing a bit of the groundwork pre-advance to get everything in order. The one final piece will be the growth study, and that's normally part of our DC background study. So I'm pushing the timeline a bit on that so we can get that growth study done in time for this housing application. Based on their basic formula as far as what we would be looking to build, we would qualify for a $112 million grant, which sounds fantastic. But keep in mind, this is a federal grant, so this is available, and we are competing against every single community over 10,000 in population across Canada. So when you start to think about cities like Ottawa, where there is expected to be huge amounts of growth, they may take precedence over us. So as much as I'm going to do my best to send in the most perfect grant application, we may not be successful.
Sounds like a lottery to me.
We did get notified last week that there were some cities that were actually pre-invited to apply for the grant. So before the applications are even out, they've been sort of handed the gold envelope, I guess. I'm waiting for mine. I'm expecting to come in the mail this week.
Perfect. Don't worry, it's in the mail. I appreciate that. Members of council, any questions to our treasurer in regards to this program? No, nothing? Yes, go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, how much money is available for this grant from the federal government? It doesn't say anywhere. Like they want to build 100,000 houses. How many billions of dollars do they have available?
Through your worship to Councillor Beelan, I believe the total is around 45 billion, but I could be off. I know they're going to make the attempt to create 100,000 homes in 3 years. That's a really tight timeline. And even for our projects, the main one that would be able to get done would be the Stainer water solution, the road network, things like that. Even Creemore, as much as I'd love to get that one going as well, until we have the master servicing agreement done, we don't have that shovel ready yet. So.
Thank you. That's a big jackpot.
Yeah.
I think it's 4 billion.
Yes, Councillor Janine.
It's 4.
I just want to say thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Councillor Janine. I believe I was just corrected by the CAO. It's around 4 billion.
Wow, 4 billion.
That's bad when I'm bad at math.
Oh, I just want to double check because I thought I read 4 billion. That's why I wanted to double check.
Okay, all right, council. Thank you very much for that discussion. Nothing further from council. Council, you've got a motion in front of you with a mover and seconder. I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor? Also unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, council, we're going to move on to our legislative services. The clerk's department are taking the lead on this. It's underneath the legislative services department. Although, as I mentioned earlier, these reports were authored by 3 separate staff members all together collaboratively. So congratulations to all of them who participated in that. Let's go with our first one. LS 017-2023, the off-road vehicle bylaw update, permit structure, enforcement, and set fines. I will read the recommendation first, and then I'll look for a mover and seconder on item number on this first item on this legislative services category. Recommendation, be it resolved. Council of the Township of Clearview hereby 1, receive report LS 017-2023, the off-road vehicle bylaw update, permit structure, enforcement, and set fines dated June 26, 2023. And item 2, direct staff not to establish a permit structure for use of off-road vehicles in the Creemore, Dunedin area that is identified in the use map Schedule C to bylaw 2071 as a non-permitted area. And item 3, direct staff to amend bylaw 20-71 to identify that the provisions of the bylaw are also enforceable by the township bylaw enforcement officers. And item 4, direct staff to amend bylaw 2071 to add a Schedule D that identifies the Part 1 Provincial Offences Act fines as outlined in this report. I will look for a mover and seconder now on this bylaw, or on this motion. Is there a mover? Deneen Walker. Thank you. Deneen and Walker. I'll go to you first, Madam Clerk. Is there anything you want to add from a staff perspective? And then I'll perhaps look to Joe Paddock, who this directly involves him as our fences officer. Is Joe on board? I think he's on board. Is he not? There he is. Yeah. Okay. Hi, Joe. Okay. We'll go to the clerk first. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll keep this brief because I think the report's pretty self-explanatory. The key highlight in here is that staff is recommending that we don't establish a permit structure for use of off-road vehicles. We feel that there's a more efficient and effective way if council has an appetite to allow users to access the trails from that area. And that would be to open up specific roadways, not to have a permit structure. With this review, staff also found some housekeeping amendments that we thought would be beneficial. And that was including township bylaw enforcement officers, the right to enforce our own bylaw in conjunction with the OPP. And part of that is also establishing fines so they can actually give out a ticket if education is not working. And then we also just did some housekeeping items, adding some definitions to the bylaw at the beginning there.
All right. Thank you very much. And that last portion you wanted to speak about was why I asked for Joe to be here. Joe is our senior bylaw officer, and Mr. Paddock, maybe you can explain how a bylaw officer can in fact enforce Part 1 Provincial Offences Act fines. Mr. Paddock, can you outline how that occurs and why that authority is important?
Yeah, typically if we see a violation or we're made aware of it, we can attend the area, educate. If that's not working, we can issue tickets. Currently, the way the bylaw is set out, the OPP is the only enforcement agency on it, which we would have to rely on to send any complaints or to any issues that we would receive.
So currently, your enforcement activities of this bylaw would be simply to prepare evidence and then offer it to OPP officers for their opportunity to do any type of enforcement. With this amendment to 2071, you as an officer would be allowed to lay said charge and be able to follow through with that if necessary to go to court. Is that correct?
That's correct. Not just myself, any bylaw enforcement officer for Clearview Township.
Thank you for the clarification. Yes, any bylaw enforcement officer who's sworn in by the township. Okay, at that point, I'll look to members of council. Is there any questions to our staff on this? No questions seen? Mr. Walker, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, your worship. First of all, yeah, the permit structure, to me does not fit at all. Doesn't fit anything of this whole process. My question to bylaw then, are we prepared to look at some weekend duties? Because I see if this moves forward, that some of our issues would be more likely to be on weekends versus through the week. That's one question I have. Then of a couple other comments afterwards.
All right, hang on there, Mr. Walker. I'll go to Mr. Paddock first. Mr. Paddock, I think we've heard this conversation before about the availability of our bylaw officers to work other than business hours, perhaps. Is there any opportunity for that to happen across the township for enforcement of any and all of our bylaws?
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Walker. We do have some availability. As you guys know, typically the ATV is the busy season, or busy times would be evenings and weekends. Through discussions with the clerk, we have worked out that there is some availability on evenings and weekends to patrol or monitor higher complaint areas.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do you want to add to that?
Thank you, Worship. Joe Paddock is correct. There is some opportunity for a couple of evening delegated patrols and some weekends, very similar to by law enforcement going out during the winter months when we know there's certain areas where cars are parked on the street and it impedes our plow trucks. We do allow some overnight. So this isn't a whole change in when our by law enforcement actually are active, but it is allowing some lieu time and bank time for some weekend work, knowing that there's some areas that we would want to patrol, but it's not a change in their normal hours.
Yeah. So Madam Clerk, would it be fair to say that bylaw enforcement is literally around the clock, whether the enforcement officers are available, is the availability of staff time to be available?
Thank you, Worship. That's correct to some degree. If there's a complete change and we're noticing councils requesting more weekend work, then that would be a discussion about staff resources. Yeah.
Thank you. Going to go back to Mr. Walker. Do you got anything further on that point or other?
That's it. Thank you, your worship. I just want to make a comment that a couple of years ago when we first did the bylaw with regards to Clearview, I was concerned about the activities of how it would take place in Clearview, and particularly Stainer. The fear was that it was going to be an influx of people here every weekend lined up to want to drive ATVs. I have not seen that in Stainer over the last 2 years. Very, very seldom do we see anybody parked at the park with unloading ATVs for tours. We have them go down Sunnydale Street once every 3 weeks or 4 weeks. There's 3 or 4 that go in a group. They're within the speed limit. They're a distance apart. They go out. They're not very noisy. And about 5 or 6 hours later, you might hear them coming back. And away they go. So I know the fear is there of an influx. It has not happened in Stainer. I'm not saying it won't happen elsewhere, but it has not happened in Stainer at this point in time. So I just wanted to make that comment that, you know, people are afraid that it's going to just be an overburden. I really don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Anybody else with any questions or comments? No? Oh, yes, Mr. MacArthur.
I guess just my one comment or question to Joe and the clerk is on the structure, the fee structure and whatnot. How long will that process probably take to make fines official and all that stuff?
Clerk, do you want to do that one?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor MacArthur, through your worship to you. I know in the past, it's been actually a couple of years since I've actually set fines to the Attorney General, and it was a quick process pre-COVID. I'm hoping it is still a quick process. I know that you can now submit digitally, so I'm hoping that that process is pretty quick. So if this bylaw changes come into effect at the next meeting, it would just be more of education until those set fines are actually approved by the Attorney General. And just a note for council and the public, bylaw enforcement is really good at education first. Enforcement is our last choice. And our bylaw officers really work on relationships with the public and our stakeholders to make sure that they understand the rules before anything enforcement wise would come into play.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further from anybody else? I'm just looking up and down my table. All right. All right, I'll thank the staff. Don't go away because we have another one to deal with, but I want to thank them, and I will remind council, I do have a mover and seconder and a motion in front of you. I am prepared to call a motion. All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Council, we're moving on to our next item, which is LS 018-2023, the off-road bylaw update regarding the road use map options. Now, at this time, I'm going to halt for a minute because I want to point out that the practice of this council is to always have a complete motion in front of us before we are then having a debate. So the practice will be that we will have a discussion. I'm going to read the entire motion as is. Then we will have a discussion without a mover and seconder. I want to hear from you with a mover and seconder on which option you want to go to. Then we will take that recommendation, whatever that is, apply it to the full motion. Then I will read the full motion now with the one of the two options selected. I'll look for a mover and seconder, and then we can have a debate about the issues. Okay. As a result, I've discussed this with the clerk several times over the years, and when we receive a recommendation from staff that has options in it, we have to look at that as a council as a complete motion. What makes it a complete motion for the public? So we can't make a motion on the table with option one and option two. We have to debate that here first before we get the opportunity to have a debate about the actual motion. Understood? All right. The recommendation says, be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report LS 018-2023, the off-road bylaw update, road use map options, dated June 26, 2023. And option one, direct staff not to make any changes to Schedule B prohibited roadways and Schedule C use map of bylaw 2071, with the prohibited roadways staying status quo. Or option two, direct staff to amend Schedule B prohibited roads and Schedule C use map of bylaw 2071 in accordance with the proposed changes outlined in Appendix C and D of this report, and that the amending bylaw be presented to council for consideration at the July 10, 2023 regular council meeting. Council, that's put in front of you. Now we want to hear, I would like to hear as the chair, I need a mover and a seconder for any of the options. I'll look for members of council. Members of council.
You want brought up for discussion?
No, we want to just, I need to have a complete motion so we can have a debate. So I need a complete motion. Would you like to make a recommendation? Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I recommend that we follow option two.
All right. Is there a seconder on that? Miss Deneen, I saw her first, sorry. Miss Deneen, thank you. All right, is just giving the opportunity, is there anybody on option one? There is none. Madam Clerk, you could record that we have an option two recommendation. So I will ask that the mover and seconder confirm. Option two is what you're moving and seconding. And now I'm prepared to call the motion on the recommendation to put that in there. The recommendation is to put option number two into the recommendation. Recommendation, understood? Oh my gosh, I said recommendation 3 times, didn't I? Sorry, you go ahead, jump in there.
So the motion on the floor is it moved by Councillor Beelan, seconded by Councillor Deneen. Be it resolved that council support option 2 for report LS-018-2023 and that a complete recommendation be put on the table to vote on.
That's what she wanted to say, and that's what I meant to say too. Members of council, you've got the motion in front of you. All those in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Council, I'm going to now read the recommendation. I'll look for a mover and seconder. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby one, receive report LS 018-2023 off-road vehicle bylaw update road use map options dated June 26, 2023, and direct staff to amend Schedule B prohibited roadways and Schedule C use map of bylaw 2071 in accordance with the proposed changes outlined in Appendix C and D of this report, and that the amending bylaw be presented to council for consideration at the July 10, 2023 council meeting. Is there a mover and seconder on the full bylaw? Motion. Mr. Beelan, seconded by Mr. MacArthur. Thank you. Now we can have a debate. Members of council, if you don't mind, I'd like to go to some staff, Mr. Perot, who also worked on this, as well as Mr. Haddock and the clerk. So Mr. Perot, would you have any comments you want to add before we turn it to questions?
Thank you, Worship. I think the only thing that I would add is that when looking at permitting vehicles in this area, staff took the same approach as we did in what I'll call the previously permitted area, where the roads that would be permitted are already existing roadways for the most part. That they're either a seasonal road, meaning no winter maintenance road, or an existing constructed road already. We did we did take into consideration some of the comments that were provided at the public open house regarding back in May, and took those into consideration when preparing the map. So the suggested roads that would be permitted, such as the Garden of Eden Road. You know, even though it is a seasonal road, I would say, and I use it in my report, I'll call it a more sensitive area than let's say the town line or the sixth concession, let's say. So another I guess major change I'll say is that staff is suggesting to open or permit off-road vehicles on Fairgrounds Road that would allow users to access the trail through Glen Huron 1516 side road or 1819 as well. And finally, I did have a conversation with the Director of Transportation at County of Simcoe with regard to allowing off-road vehicles on county roads. And his suggestion to me is that while they don't permit them, they have no issue if they need to travel, if an off-road vehicle needs to travel from one spot to the next for short distances. So again, an example would be in Dunedin, if an off-road vehicle were to use Lavender Hill Road to go down into Dunedin, they could travel along the county road for a short period to get to, let's say, concession 8.
I see.
That I think that's all I would have to add there, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Dan. I'll give Madam Clerk an opportunity. Do you have anything you want to add to the report or to the comments from the report?
Thank you, Worship. I think Dan summed it up pretty well.
All right, good. I know Joe Paddock is still with us, so if we have any questions for him, we can jump to him. But right now, I'll look to council. Is there any questions or comments council would like to speak about? Mr. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Dan, why is the 6th line, which is a paved road south of 91, not accessible? Because that gives a perfect opportunity to the trail and for people to go to Glen Huron.
Dan? Mr. Perot?
Yeah.
Okay, just a moment. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the report. Thank you very much for sure. Oh, Sasha, you're doing that.
Oh,
okay. She's looking at her to go. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Through your worship, the Deputy Mayor, that was we did not propose to change that at this time. That was a prohibited road under the previous bylaw that was agreed upon with previous council.
I think that road should be open because all the people from Ottawa who want access to, say, the Glen Huron Market and to the trail, it's the only way to go. Otherwise, we now have to send them up to Fairgrounds Road, which doesn't seem right. Everybody see that on their map?
I do see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would maybe
Yep, I hear you.
lean
I think we should amend
to the
that.
clerk, lean to the clerk for maybe a suggestion on how to make amendments to the map if
Yes.
council so chooses.
Okay, well, you're calling for an amendment?
Yes, I am.
All right, so I got an amendment. Madam Clerk, you can record that amendment. Is that correct? Look for a seconder. Is there a seconder, Madam or Phyllis Deneen? You're seconding that?
And can we just say what it is again?
It's the sixth line, south, concession 6 south between County Road 91 and 1819 side road.
6, 7, 2.
Right? You got that? Yes, please. Want to make sure everything gets read out.
So the amendment on the floor is moved by Deputy Mayor Van Staveren, seconded by Councillor Janine. Be it resolved, the motion before council be amended to add the additional roadway as open for use, concession 6 south to 1819 side road.
Did you say from County Road 9? It's County Road 91?
Okay, so concession 6 south from County Road 91 to the 1819 side road.
All right. All right, thank you. We've got an amendment on the floor. Is there any discussion? Would you like to speak about it again or anybody else? Okay, is there any comments from anybody on this? All right. Wow, okay. I have no comment on it either. I understand sort of the logic that the previous council did to prohibit those roads. But I also concur with the logic that we've seen today, considering what Councillor Walker's comments were earlier, that we haven't seen a problem. So is there anything else on this? Nothing further? Yes, go ahead.
I just make the comment, and you know, we the council as a council, we've heard from all the people in the public, and I can honestly say we've been inundated with emails both for and against, and it was very good, the public meeting that we had. We make it perfectly clear that if any problems do arise, we will consider amending things again. We're not going to stick our head in the mud and think this is the end all and be all. So if nothing else, we'll make that commitment try with enforcement. If there becomes an issue and it's identified with us, we will deal with it. And we can, you know, we've protected in our, as was said earlier, we've protected a bunch of the roads in our, which were brought forward in the open meeting. So we'll keep recognizing our responsibilities that way. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. If there's nothing further on the amendment, I'm prepared to call the motion. All those in favor on the amendment? Those in favor on the amendment? That's a unanimous decision on the amendment. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for bringing that forward. We're still back on the regular, the motion now with option number 2. Is there anybody else who has any questions or comments? Mr. Walker? And then I see.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to add on to Deputy Mayor's comment, that was one thing I was wanting to make sure that if through misuse or registered complaints, that we can revisit that bylaw and make changes as we see fit to do so in case there is that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I saw 2 hands over here. Broderick first, and then MacArthur. Mr. Broderick.
Thank you, Your Worship. 3031, Road 3031 from the 6th line to 124. That now has a bridge on it. Should we not be addressing that at the same time?
I'll give you one comment on that, is that the bridge is not complete and they still have some work yet to be done. So as was pointed out, we can address that when necessary, but at this time it's not open.
Oh, at this time, I think it is necessary. My intention for bringing this forward is that bridge is not open and it doesn't look like it may be open for this winter snowmobiling season. It seems to be a funding issue. I intend to contact the snowmobile club involved with that, and if that is the case and we do have that open, then I'm quite sure the ATV club would come to the rescue there. I intend to ask them to come to the rescue there.
Well, there you go. I would suggest we'll go to Mr. Perot to get an update on that. First of all, that project's been ongoing. I was surprised to learn that the project was basically halted because of funding when, if you recall, the motion that I brought forward to name the bridge after Ed Christie, it was full steam ahead. And so I don't know what happened, but somewhere communication didn't happen. Mr. Perot, have you got any comments on the status of that project?
Thank you, Your Worship. I do concur with Mr. Broderick or Councillor Broderick. Just had an update actually just this past Thursday that I would concur that there is a funding concern there, that some of the work that needs to happen at that bridge cannot happen at this time because of funding issues, that they are seeking additional resources in order to, I'll call in quote, make that approach. It's more so to do with the approaches really than anything, to make sure that those are safe to for the snowmobiles and potentially any other users of it. But that's my understanding.
All right. So the status on the project right now is that it's still waiting for more funding. And how is the rest of the trail all the way to 124? I personally haven't been on it in years.
I can't speak to that either, Your Worship. I haven't been on it.
If this council was to entertain a change to the status of that road on July the 10th, when we pass the resolution, that would effectively be open and the bridge isn't open. So I'm concerned that this is a premature ideal. That's all. Mr. Broderick.
I actually have used that trail this past winter. The rest of the trail could be cleaned up in one weekend.
Okay.
So once the bridge is open, well, I would also suggest to the ATV club that they clean up the rest of the trail. Well, actually, it'd be the snowmobile club that they clean up the rest of the trail while they're waiting for the approach to be done, and at the same time as the approaches are dealt with. I don't see that as being a problem.
All right. Where are we? You have an amendment? I didn't hear you say the word amendment. So do you have an amendment?
Yes, I would move to amend that we add 3031 from the 6th line to 124 to this as well.
All right. Madam Clerk, if you can record that. Is there a seconder on the motion?
Subject to the bridge being repaired and sorry, no, I can't say subject to the trail, the bridge being repaired, because the ATV club has a bylaw. They cannot spend money on a trail that they do not have access to. I would say subject to the trail being cleaned up.
Was there a seconder on the motion? Did I record that from you? I'm just asking if there was. Yeah. Okay. So there's now an amendment on the floor, Madam Clerk.
Yeah, that'd tie their hands.
Your Worship, can I read out the amendment just to make sure I've got the proper?
Yeah, please do.
vote?
Yeah.
Thank you.
For Mr. Broderick and Ms. Deneen.
Moved by Councillor Broderick, seconded by Councillor Deneen. Be it resolved that the motion before council be amended to add the additional roadway as open for use, 3031 side road from concession 6 to County Road 124, subject to the trail being cleaned up.
Is that correct, Mr. Broderick?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All right. Ms. Deneen, you're comfortable with that? Okay. Is there any discussion from members? Yes. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I got to look both ways here. Go ahead, Paul.
I just think it's very important, and I don't disagree with Mr. Broderick that eventually that trail will come into the fold. And especially in light of the fact that we've named the bridge after a previous councillor, Mr. Ed Christie, he'd respect that. So I know we've offered to donate gravel to it. They're looking at different options right now. So I think it'd be wise that we look forward to bringing it in at the same time.
All right, members of council, anything further you want to discuss? Yes, Mr. MacArthur.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, is there an understanding between ATV clubs and the snowmobile clubs that the ATVs can even use that bridge, seeing as it's been put in by the snowmobile clubs.
Mr. Broderick?
My initial discussions with them, there was no objection. And the bridge itself is on municipal property. It's up to the municipality. It's up to us to make that determination.
Anything else? Members? Mr. MacArthur?
So once the bridge is complete, then is it transferred in an asset of the municipality when it is fully completed?
Dan, I don't know if it's our asset yet. Is that correct? Once it's complete, it would be our asset, correct, Dan?
Your worship, that is an excellent question. And former CAO Steve Sage started this conversation.
Yes.
Many years ago. I'd have to do some research and look back on what the actual agreement was. But from my understanding is that the snowmobile club purchased it. We permitted it to be on the road allowance. Who takes ownership of that is a very good question. And I have to get back to council on that.
Yeah. For sure. All right. Anybody else? Yes. Go ahead, Madam Clerk. You need a yellow card. I've said this to all you guys on staff. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. And this is more to Dan. I was just wondering, for liability and insurance reasons, do we have signage up that bridge is not passable and it's not to be used?
I am not sure, actually. I don't think there's specific signage. I think it's fenced off, but
all right. Council and staff, and respectfully to Mr. Broderick, I really believe this is premature. I think that there must be more information for us as council to enter into this agreement. That would be a tripartite agreement with the snowmobile club, potentially the ATV club, and the municipality. And so I think that we have to have some more clarity on this before I'm prepared to support this motion as it is, as an amendment. I think that it's very clear to me that we as a municipality can make changes to these type of bylaws, as the deputy mayor just pointed out earlier, and so did Mr. Walker, that we can change this later on. And as different roadways become available or not, we can change it to prohibit from ATVs. We can change it to permit under the advice of our public works staff. I think this is a very good point, and I see what you're trying to do to bring this into this one big change. But I think it's premature, and I firmly believe that we should be tabling this amendment and bring it forward when we have much more information available for us to make a balanced decision to represent the best interests of the corporation. So I'm not going to be in support of this recommendation at this time. And I think we're dealing with a difficult, complicated issue already. And to be honest, we've had public meeting where we discussed everything under the sun at that meeting, and this item did not come up. So I don't see why we have to put it forward at this point, at this time. And again, I respect completely that members of council have every right to bring forward these type of recommendations, but I think it's also for us to be wise and be cautious of making these type of decisions without having all the information available to us before we move on. So Mr. Broderick, I would advise you, my intention would be to vote against your amendment, but I would also ask you if you would withdraw it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My intention with this was not to stall the project, as you know, fall is quickly approaching.
Sure.
And I am concerned about all the snowmobilers out there having access to it. At this time, what I would suggest is, if it pleases you, I will defer this until I've had until we've had an opportunity to discuss it more fully with the Blue Mountain Snowdrifters and Central Ontario ATV Club.
Well, thank you, sir. And again, I'm being very respectful in the fact that I appreciate you can bring this forward if you wish, but deferring it, I think, would be the best option for the corporation. We can work with staff to get confirmed information. We can also find out who actually owns the bridge. That'd be a good question for all of us to know.
I think that's an excellent question.
I think it would be an excellent answer to get sometime. So I appreciate you doing that, and thank you very much. Members of council, is there anything further we want to discuss on this item that's before us with a now slightly amended motion? Anybody else? Main motion, it's option 2 with the one amendment that's already passed. Okay, any other comments or questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just like to make my comments through the public meeting and everything. There was a lot of good discussion. I'm totally in favor that the majority of that meeting was in favor of opening it up again. I've had discussions with a couple of businesses in Creemore that verbally told me that they supported having the traffic back by their businesses. And one other quick note, in this day and age of cell phones and everything else, of all the discussion, I have yet to see a single video or picture shown anywhere of the damages or the unruliness of these four-wheelers that supposedly cause it. So therefore, I'm fully in support of this motion the way it's presented now.
All right, thank you. Is anybody else with any questions? Yes, go ahead, Ms. Deneen.
I'd like to propose another amendment then.
Okay,
Fairgrounds Road from the 21-22 side road to the actual OFAT trail on the 18-19 side would be open as well. So it saves some confusion for people. That road is working.
sorry, you've lost me. Where?
The Fairgrounds Road south from the 21st, 22nd side road to the 18-19 side would be open as well to the existing trail.
Underneath option number 2 on the map, that is open on Fairgrounds Road. If we pass this regulations in there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong map. Thank you. It's an urgent report.
Yeah, it's a very long report. I think this was page 37 of 38 pages. I think something like that. We're a lot of maps. Sorry. Okay, Mr. Pro.
Your worship, it's a bit confusing because that road wasn't on as part of the public or the public meeting or the open house in that, but Schedule C of the report is the proposed or Appendix C. Yeah. With the additional change would come later on.
Right. So the map can be updated if the amendment passes and the main motion passes, right? So Ms. Deneen, I'm glad you brought it up actually, because the confusion in all the details that have happened here. Let's just be clear. We did have a public meeting and we had a presentation from the staff, which had a recommendation. And then from that public meeting, comments were made about ATVers wanting to access the trails, which is the ideal about why this whole discussion is up. And having both Fairgrounds Road and Riverside Drive prohibited from ATVs leaves no option for ATVers who are in Creemore to reach a trail on a legally open thoroughfare. And so that was brought up at the public meeting. That was later brought up with an email we got from some ATVers who pointed that out. And so the issue is Mr. Perot and Ms. Helmke and Mr. Paddock, who worked on this, have recommended this option C, option 2, Schedule C, which has Fairgrounds Road open from County Road 91 all the way to County Road 9. And that's what's being proposed in the current iteration of this map. Okay. No problem. I just want to clarify that in a verbal way so people understood what we were talking about. Interestingly enough, the other trade-off on that was, as was mentioned by Mr. Perot in his presentation, the Garden of Eden Road, considered an area of sensitivity and also a thoroughfare that's not passable in a seasonal road fashion today. I guess it is passable. It depends on the quality of your truck. It is, and it isn't. First of all, I would not take my Highlander up that road, so I'm not going to drive up that road. But I can appreciate that there can be some type of trucks go up that road. But that also brings up the point that the level of maintenance of our seasonal roads may need some adjustment. So Mr. Perot, could you just speak briefly about, we have multiple seasonal roads that we're going to be doing some attention to. Would this be one of those seasonal roads that we'll be looking at as well? The Garden of Eden Road.
Thank you, Your Worship. And we do say look at them, but we do every year maintain our seasonal roads. It's the level of maintenance that is required. So if it's just some brushing, it'll get brushed. If it's just some grading, it'll get graded. It just depends on the level. I know we had a conversation recently with regards to 26-27 side road. I actually went down Monday.
Did you?
No, last Friday. Sorry, I apologize. And it's not in bad shape.
Yeah.
I took my township vehicle through there, and it was passable. Yes, it does need some work, but again, it is part of our maintenance program that we review them and determine the level of maintenance that's required each time they're reviewed.
Right.
So we can endeavor to, again, drive down the Garden of Eden Road and see what level of maintenance is required this season.
Okay. But again, it is identified as a point of sensitivity, given that there are, I guess, the edge of the Mingay track and the Mad River Park was sort of adjacent on both sides of that road. Makes sense? Okay.
Yeah, and many groundwater springs that come out of that as well. So sources of groundwater of some substance also in that area. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Members of council, nothing further. I would like to add that, yes, the deputy mayor is correct. We did receive many emails that are both pro and con for this issue. We also had a very good turnout at our public meeting, and we very much thank for hearing from members of the public. I want to acknowledge Kara. Thank you, Bill, for your presentations, both at the public meeting and here tonight. It's an interesting aspect that we hear from the Kara organization, very much focused in the Creemore area, and I understand and respect why they do that. I would like to point out that this bylaw is encompassing all of Clearview Township, and so it's an issue regarding the population of the whole township. And so, the majority of residents across the entire township have spoken to members of council and made their presentations as to why they want this access, as well as hearing directly from residents who are right in Creemore, who are ATV operators, who follow all of the rules, but are now prohibited from operating their machines off their own driveway. And so I think this is very appropriate. It's been a long process to get to this point. Certainly our previous council and previous councilors who participated in that action to create the recommendation that we're now following through on. That was the intention of that meeting so many months ago. And it's to be acknowledged that the work of our staff in the clerk's department, in the public works department, in the bylaw department, guidance from our CAO, we've had quite a long discussion to get to this point where council has a resolution in front of them that basically serves all of Clearview Township. And so for that, I'm grateful. Members of council, I have nothing further to say. We have a recommendation with a mover and a seconder. It does have an amendment. And so at this time, I am prepared to call the motion. Those in favor? And that'll pass unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, council. Moving on to our next page. We have a couple of bylaws to deal with. Council has a amendment to the board appointment bylaw. Recommendation be it resolved that bylaw 2355 being a bylaw to amend Schedule A of bylaw 22-101, appointing members to the Township of Clearview committees and boards, be presented or read a first, second, and third time, finally passed on the 26th day of June, 2023. Can I have a mover and seconder? Where are we? Mr. Deputy Mayor and Mr. Broderick, thank you. Council, you've heard the bylaw. I'm prepared to call the bylaw. All those in favor? And it carries unanimous. Thank you. Council, we've got a zoning bylaw amendment. This is 263 Warden Street, Stainer. Recommendation, be it resolved that bylaw 2356, being a bylaw to regulate the use of land and the character, location, and use of buildings and structures on lands municipally known as 263 Warden Street, Clearview, and legally described as Plan 51M 943, Part Block 106, Clearview, be presented about a first, second, and third time, finally passed 26th day of June, 2023. Can I have a mover and seconder on this? Where are we at? Mr. MacArthur and Mr. Beelan. Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the bylaw. All those in favor? Bylaw carries. Thank you. Regina, stop signs. Here we go. Regina, Spruce, Charles. We can see those things almost right away. How about that? Bylaw 2357. Be it resolved that bylaw 2357 being a bylaw to provide for the erection of stop signs at certain intersections in the township of Clearview be presented or read a first, second, and third time finally passed on the 26th day of June, 2023. Mr. Walker, mover. Deputy Mayor, seconder. Any questions? I'll call the bylaw. All those in favor? Unanimous bylaw. Thank you. Stop signs. All right. Council, item 13, notice of motion and new business. Nothing. And we have the bylaw to confirm our proceedings of our council meeting. So, recommendation be it resolved, the bylaw 2359 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the June 26, 2023 council meeting be presented and read a first, second, and third time. Finally, passed on the 26th day of June, 2023. Can I have a mover? Ms. Deneen. Can I have a seconder? Mr. Broderick. Thank you. All those in favor? Bylaw to confirm carries. Thank you. Madam Clerk, we have the bylaw to adjourn. What is the time on your computer? 7:46. Okay. Let's open it with 7:49, anyway. Be it resolved that council meeting be adjourned at 7:46 p.m. Is there a mover and seconder? Mr. Broderick, seconded by Mr. Beelan. Thank you. Before I call it, I just want to say Happy Canada Day. Hope to see you all at the Canada Day parade and at the fireworks. Those in favor of the adjournment. And that